Hello and welcome to Souls and Emotion. I'm Noah, and today we'll be talking about Michael Malloy. Um, so it will only be me recording podcasts for until I have someone else probably do some with other people. And I missed last week because moving and having no Wi-Fi. But yeah, back this week, and I wanted to upload two, but I probably won't. I'll probably take down the first podcast, Somerton Man, and have that as an actual edited podcast instead of the hour long it is with large gaps of silences. Anyway, Michael Malloy, who was also known as Mike the Durable and Iron Mike, was a homeless man in America who came from Ireland. Mike Malloy is most famous for surviving several attempts on his life. So there was a group of people who was it one of he was an alcoholic, and when he was passed out in a bar, a group of people had the idea to up his life insurance, kill him, and claim the life insurance, as they were saying that they were next relatives to him, so they would get all the money. Now, since he was an alcoholic and he was homeless and he always came to the same bar for alcohol, and the person who ran the bar was in on the murdering him, so the first thing they planned to do was make him drink himself to death. So when he came in, the bartender told him, there's new competition, so he would just get a lot more alcohol. And they would pour drink after drink. And it didn't kill him. He drank what should have killed a normal person, but he would just walk out fine. So, yeah, the idea was to make him drink himself to death, and then they would all get, they'd get $3,500 back then, which is around 66,000 now. And that's if he accidentally died, which would have been from alcohol poisoning. So since he kept walking in, and he wouldn't drink himself to death, they tried to put antifreeze in with his drinks, and that still didn't kill him. So then they came up with the idea of wood alcohol, which around this time caused several people to either have blindness or death, and that's just from little bits of wood alcohol being mixed in with normal alcohols. Now, they were going to give him pure wood alcohol, and they did, and he lived. He survived through this, didn't die at all, just somehow managed to pretty much drink poison every night. So they tried to give him... Eventually they went to go give him, on the house, oysters that were raw, but had also been soaked in wood alcohol prior. And he ate them all, and was fine. So then they tried a sandwich that had off sardines with poison and carpet tacks, and that also failed. He washed that down with more wood alcohol, but they were still giving him. It's not killing him. They just kept giving him wood alcohol, hoping it might kill him. And so he finished the sandwich and was fine. So after all of this is going on, so they've tried several different ways of killing him. They have the idea, why don't we just freeze him to death? That'll make it look like an accident. So when he passed out drunk, they grabbed him, drove off, put him on a park bench, stripped off all of his clothes, and put water over him, and he didn't wake up from them pouring water on him. Next day, he rocks up to the bar, asks for a drink, and says it was a little cold outside. That night had reached negative 26 degrees Celsius, and he was fine. Yeah, so after they tried killing him with wood alcohol, they tried killing him with, was it, different types of food that were pretty much poison. He's pretty much eating and drinking poison as, like, his meal every day. He was homeless, this is all he could do. The original reason the bartender wanted to kill him was because his Malloy's bar tab was higher than everyone's, and he knew he wasn't going to pay it because he was homeless. Although he was homeless, and this was during the Great Depression, so he would pick up little bits of work. One of them was apparently a coffin polisher, polishing coffins, and most of the time he just told them to pay him like a bottle of whiskey, so he was just working for alcohol. There was another attempt on his life was when they thought, okay, how about we just hit him with a car? So one of them was friends with a taxi driver, and that pretty much told the guy he'd get a smaller cut of the money if he just hit him with the taxi. So when Malloy was like drunken, they would hold him there and went to go hit him with a taxi. So twice they jumped out of the way, like with his body, so twice they failed. Third time, Malloy was hit by a car that was traveling 72 kilometers an hour. So the gang who was trying to kill him started calling up like the different hospitals and morgues asking if they had seen a lost brother. That way they sound like a relative. And they heard nothing. So a few days later, Malloy walks into the bar telling them, "You'll never guess what happened to me," and told them how he had been hit by a car and put in hospital and was trying to get out as fast as he could so he can come drink at this bar. The final attempt on his life. So pretty much when they couldn't, before this happened, when they couldn't find where he was, they started plotting to kill a different homeless person and pass it off as Malloy. And by this time, everything it had taken to kill Malloy, it was adding up to pretty much they were not making a profit by the amount of like wood alcohol they've had to buy, the oysters, the sandwich, just pretty much giving him poison and it not killing him was starting to cost too much. So the final attempt was, when he was drunk, they put a pipe down his throat that put carbon monoxide poisoning into him. Now, at the time when he died, they just pretty much assumed it was a natural death. And when they claimed that, they made sure that they buried him quickly, and they could, because they put up his life insurance in different companies. So they started going around and collecting the money. And when they got to one of them, it was like, oh, well, we need to see the body. And they're like, oh, well, it's already buried. So they couldn't get the money from that one. They used the money they had to buy new jackets, and everything was going fine for them. They'd gotten away with it. They had a little bit of more money than before. They got a slight profit. But then some of them, because of how much it took to kill him, saw it as a good story to tell people at other bars, so they started talking about it. And that's when rumors started to go around of pretty much how they killed him and claimed the money. So the police started to investigate skeptically, dug up the body and tested it and found the carbon monoxide poisoning. And then 2 members of the gang who planned to kill him pretty much told them everything so that they wouldn't get the death sentence, whereas everyone else was sentenced to death by the electric chair. Yeah, so that is pretty much. It explains the name Mike the Gerbil and Iron Mike because he just. He was eating and drinking poison for weeks and just survived. Not literally, what he didn't know didn't kill him. Had no idea these people he was drinking with every day were planning his murder. Considering it's during the time of the Great Depression when, like, pretty much you couldn't afford anything, and the places hired a homeless guy and paid him in alcohol because they couldn't pay him in money. And it's the kind of place where they put up tabs in some bars that usually wouldn't have it because a lot of people couldn't afford it, and it's the only way they could actually get business is if people opened a tab and would eventually pay them. Nobody could afford to pay them then and there. And then a homeless guy's like, okay, I'll just keep my tab going up and up. Plan to kill him. He has no idea they're giving him poison. And, like, eventually they succeed, but he survived a lot before that happened. He died on February the 22nd in 1933, and he was around 59 to 60 years old. So he had survived quite a bit. Like, he was pretty old by that point, and was just surviving everything. Yeah. So that is the story of Mike Malloy, or Iron Mike, or Mike the Gerbil. Yeah, so this one should come out a few hours. I'm recording this one very late. And the other one might come out Friday, maybe. I might re-bring out the Summerton Man, which is one I want to continue to talk about later, like in a later podcast, is pretty much a part 2 to that. Because we were really unprepared for that very first one. My